So, thank you, and it's now my pleasure to welcome our panelists. In a way, as a scene setter for Asia, we're going to be looking at the state of LGBT rights in Asia and the legal and political agenda in a number of countries in particular. Taiga Ishikawa is an assembly member for Tashima Ward in Tokyo, Japan. Meinu Yu is a legislator of Democratic Progressive Party in Taiwan. Sol Aragones is a congresswoman from the Philippines. And Tantu Nguyen is acting Director General for the Ministry of Justice in Vietnam. So please welcome all our initial panelists. I should just mention that Raymond Chan wanted to be with us today, but he was called back unavoidably for business at LegCo, so sends his regrets. Okay, so our job here is really to look at some of the cutting-edge issues in your countries and in Asia more broadly. Perhaps, Sol, I could start with you. Tell us a little bit about the situation in the Philippines, and in particular the bill that you are sponsoring.
Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, everybody. In the Philippines, as compared to other Asian countries, LGBTs are more accepted. In fact, a lot of members of the LGBT community in our country are celebrities in movies, media, and television. I was a former reporter of ABS-CBN for the past 13 years, and I had the opportunity to listen to their personal stories of abuse, harassment, and I was able to see a lot of reports pertaining to hate crimes. In fact, Philippine LGBT Crime Watch recorded since 1996 to 2012, there were 164 cases of hate crimes. And based from these experiences, now that I am a legislator, I have filed 3 bills pertaining to the protection of the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. My first bill is about the penalizing discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Second is to create an LGBT protection desk that will help the victims of hate crimes and to ensure them that there's a place for them to go for assistance if ever they experience such discrimination. And third is hate crimes against LGBT members or LGBT community, an aggravating circumstance, and they should be penalized with higher penalty. Fortunately, all these 3 bills are considered and part of our LGBT anti-discrimination bill in the 16th Congress. We were able to calendar it and file it on the first reading in the plenary, but unfortunately, our 16th Congress ended last February, so we were not able to pass it, but I believe that there's always a second chance. So I will refile this anti-discrimination bill on the next Congress because I feel that this bill is really worth fighting for.
So just give us a sense of what the timing might be for if you refile it, when might it have a chance of reaching actually the statute books?
Well, when I spoke with the Secretariat of the Women and Gender Equality, they're the committee handling this anti-discrimination bill. Based from their experience, it took them 9 years before they finally the passage of a human rights bill will really take 9 years or more than 9 years. But we're still hoping that this bill will not last too long. So I'm still praying and hoping that the private and government sectors will work hand in hand because the role of the state is to close the discrimination for the LGBT community.
You describe a situation which seems to me to be somewhat mixed. You say that there's a lot of acceptance, a lot of prominent LGBT advocates or people in the Philippines, but also a difficulty with legislation and a lot of hate crimes, as you reported on. How do you explain that paradox? And perhaps it would be interesting to get your thoughts on a very prominent case, the Manny Pacquiao case, where he made remarks about gay marriage, and Nike dropped him from their sponsorship.
In the Philippines, there are different opinions, different opposition of different religious organizations. We respect Manny Pacquiao's opinion based from his religion. But, 80% of the Filipinos are Catholic. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines position is love the sinner, yet hate the sin. They're willing to support the proposed anti-discrimination law as long as it rejects the second-class treatment for the LGBT community, and only on the basis of their occupational niches. But of course, homosexuality thing is different. So I think there are different views and opinions of the different organizations, but at the end of the day, in the Philippines, I can see that we're gearing towards a direction of helping each other. For example, in the Civil Service Commission in the Philippines, they issued a memorandum order to prohibit or forbid any discrimination in accepting employees, promotion, and merit of employees. So I'm very positive that everything will turn out good. Maybe not this time, but I'm hoping soon.
Well, it would be interesting just to get your impression of how the Manny Pacquiao affair played out in the Philippines. Was this big news? And how did people respond to it?
Well, it was big news because not only in the Philippines, but the whole world are looking at Manny Pacquiao as a hero. And then the LGBT, some, not all, LGBT community reacted. Some said it is very exaggerated, but we have to respect their opinion. It's their right. But some of the religious sectors favored Manny Pacquiao's statement. So, but at the end of the day, I think what's important is Manny Pacquiao stand on what he believes in, on his religious beliefs, and so we respect his opinion.
But it was an interesting case where business was involved, because there was a business reaction from one of his main sponsors, Nike. So that was for this purposes of this conference, I think it makes it a particularly interesting case study. Did that receive a lot of attention, the response to it by Nike?
Yes, because there are opposition in the social media. I monitored the reaction of different, or the netizens in the social media. Well, some of them are really against Nike's action about Manny Pacquiao, but Nike said, well, it's our advocacy. We are protecting and we are advocating the rights of the LGBT community, and this is our stand. But other people are rallying and saying we should not support Nike anymore. So, well, I think at the end of the day, it's a decision of each one of us.
Very good. Let's turn now to Taiwan and to Menu Yu. We have a very interesting situation now with a new president coming in, so we're particularly interested to hear how that might affect things, but also about the bill that you have sponsored. So tell us a bit about the background, the state of play in Taiwan.
Okay. LGBT people, but still not legalized LGBT marriage. In Taiwan, it was back in 1958. A lesbian couple inquired the notary public office of the court to have a civil marriage. Around 30 years later, in 1986, a gay couple requested the court for a civil marriage and then requested the Grand Justice of the Judicial Yuan for interpretation. Both have failed. In 2003, the Bill on Human Rights Basic Law, passed by Presidential Human Rights Advisory Committee, recognized same-sex marriage and its child adoption, but was never passed in the Executive Yuan. In December 2012, I proposed a draft to review Article 972 of the Family Part of the Civil Code to support a man who was filing an administrative lawsuit on the same-sex marriage. In September 2013, the Taiwan Alliance of Promoted Civil Partnership Rights took the initiative to draft the bill. In the bill, it strived not only for legalizing LGBT marriage, but also for requesting civil code not to have any discrimination against gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender disposition when they adopt children. In that year, my fellow legislator and I proposed the bill. However, the bill never proceeded beyond the Judiciary Committee, and only one deliberation meeting was held in 2 years. As the bill was not finalized by the end of the 8th term of the legislative year last year, and I will propose the bill once more in the 9th term this year. 14 countries have now legalized same-sex marriage, and the Supreme Court in the US ruled that same-sex married couples to be constitutionally accorded the same recognition as opposite-sex couples in 2015. In Taiwan, on the contrary, same-sex couples are deprived of many human rights and welfare benefits, such as inheritance, parentage, social welfare, identity, medical consent, and even rights of judiciary and immigration matters, which are exclusive to the heterosexual marriage. In the review of the implementation of the International Human Rights Covenants in 2013, the international expert expressed their great concerns on Taiwan's lacking legal recognition of same-sex marriage or cohabiting partnerships. They further point out that the government has an obligation to fulfill the human rights of all people and not make such fulfillment contingent on public opinion. In the report, they recommended that the civil code be amended to give legal recognition to the diversity of families in the country. This is the reason why I decided to amend the civil code as the best approach to protect LGBT rights.
Well, thank you. That's very interesting. And some parallels with pushing legislation, which frustratingly is slow to win approval. But how do you see now with a new political wind in Taiwan, with the new president, how do you see Tsai Ing-wen's election as possibly affecting the prospects for your bill?
Yes, our new president, Tsai Ing-wen, she in favor of the LGBT marriage, but she said it needs more communication and more communication, because this is involved human rights, and the human rights, democratic and legal rule of law is our core value. So the direction is no problem, but just we take a time to to
So
pass
there
it.
needs to be a process to prepare the ground properly for be able to pass
Yes,
the
I
bill.
think I have confidence to pass it, but it takes time.
So, and it's interesting you said that the view that it should not be contingent upon public
Yeah.
opinion, and yet it is, to some extent, political reality is that public opinion matters when you're trying to pass legislation. So, what is, as far as you can tell, the state of public opinion in Taiwan? Is it changing? Is there a generational shift, perhaps, in public opinion? How do you see the climate for public opinion?
Yes, although the several comprehensive polls showed more than half of Taiwanese people are in favor of the same-sex marriage. And the special for the young generations, yes, the higher 84% to
84%
4% from the young generation from 20 to 29 years old. And even 30 to 39 is still the 70%. And the 40 to 49 is 54% to pro same-sex marriage. But the proposed bill on the same-sex marriage has produced a strong opposition among the religious groups. As a result, my office received thousands of the phone calls claiming that the passage of bill would incite behaviors such as incest and polygamy. These views have seriously distorted and misrepresented the content of the bill and the legislative procedure, and thus the legislation was hindered. So even among our party's members, still have different voice because the different religious concept. Yeah.
And what about business in all this? So you talk about the very vociferous campaign against the bill by what you say is now a minority of opinion, but nevertheless a very vocal one. What about the role of the business world in Taiwan? It's very strong, a very strong lobby generally. Is it silent on this issue, or does it make any noise?
Unfortunately, in Taiwan, till now, the business is still keep silence. So this is very excited for me because this is the first aspect from the business aspect to discuss the LGBT marriage.
What role would you like to see business play in this? I mean, business is obviously primarily interested in business. So what would you expect from business?
Because the business sector, they pay attention to this issue. It will be more discussion and more people accept it and see it not so serious and so terrible, because many against these issues, the people who against this issue, most they never seen the LGBT. They never seen that. They just the image that is very terrible. So many people tell me why they always so terrible, because the image for them, they just from the from the video or from film, but that was distorted. The image was distorted, so they think it is very terrible and they think it's like the evil. So when during the election, the candidate who pro the LGBT marriages, they was described as a evil.
Okay, very good. Well, that's fascinating background. Let's turn to Vietnam. Now, Tan Toon Nguyen, you come at this from the perspective of a public servant rather than a politician.
Yeah.
But you've had some success. You've also been involved in drafting legislation, which in your case has
Yes.
actually become
Yes.
become law. So
Yeah.
tell us the background to that.
First of all, I would like to mention about the new constitution of Vietnam enacted in 2013. Since in the new constitution, it recognizes, respect, protect and guarantee the human rights, including LGBT rights. And in this new constitution, it say that the government shall protect human rights, and human rights shall not be restricted, cannot be restricted, and it can be restricted in case, in some special circumstance, in order to protect the national security, social morality, or the well-being, or social morality and the community well-being. And of course, any restriction or discrimination against LGBT cannot fall into such special circumstance. Therefore, in principle, according to the Constitution, LGBT people are well protected. And of course, in order to implement the new Constitution, in 2014 and 2015, the government of Vietnam has submitted to the National Assembly, the Parliament of Vietnam, many laws in favor of LGBT persons. For example, the law on marriage and family in 2014. In this new family law, it removed the ban on the same-sex marriage. Before, in the law on family and marriage in 2000, it forbidden the same-sex marriage. However, in the new law in 2014, it removed that ban. And in the new civil code enacted last November, there is one article in that new civil code permitting the sex reassignment surgery. And after that sex reassignment surgery, those persons have the right to change their name and their gender in their legal identity documents.
Was it previously banned, sex?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And they wouldn't have had the right to have changed their name.
Yeah. And in addition to that, for example, in the new penal code, the law on detention and custody, also enacted by the National Assembly in the end of 2015, there are many changes in favor of the LGBT persons. For example, in the penal code of 2015, it protects the LGBT person against rape. In the law on detention and custody, it states that LGBT persons shall be detained in a separate cell rather than the same cell with a male or female person. That's why human rights, as I mentioned, human rights issues and LGBT issues have been attracted the attention of the government of Vietnam. Of course, the law in book and the law in practice is different.
We'll come on to that, but I'm interested because you were involved in the drafting process
Yes.
of these laws.
Yeah.
So in the drafting process, did you encounter much resistance to these changes, or was it a battle that you had to fight to get them through? It would be interesting, I think, to hear a sense of the context in which you were doing this.
Yes. For example, when we were drafting the civil code, in that process, we have a lot of opinion for and against the right to have the right to sex reassignment surgery, and we had to organize a lot of events and consultation with communities. Of course, NGO, for example, UNDP, LGBT communities in Vietnam, they sent a lot of letters and petitions to us in order to ask to remain that article in the draft civil code. But in addition, there were also many opinions against that. But finally, the National Assembly of Vietnam when in the section on the 24th of November 2015, when the National Assembly passed the new civil code, the National Assembly had to pass that article separately. And then the result is that more than 86% of the members of the National Assembly of Vietnam cast in favor of LGBT persons' rights.
Now, you said you suggested that there was a gap between the law and the practice or acceptance or society more broadly. To the extent that you have a sense of public opinion in Vietnam or social attitudes in Vietnam, how would you describe it? Is it similar to what you heard from Taiwan, for example, or is it at a different stage?
Yeah, I think that as an Asian country, we have a similar problem. Here in Vietnam, the legislation have been moved forward in advance rather than the public opinion and or the opinion of the society in this issue. For example, according to a survey of over 3,000 LGBT conducted from 2008 until 2013, for more than 40% say that they had discrimination in their family. And around 44% had discrimination at school. However, at workplace, only 21%.
Right.
Yeah, it means that the public opinion at the moment is not much favor for LGBT. It is lower than legislation.
Legislators in advance.
Yeah.
Yes. And what about business? Let me put to you the same question that I put to our previous panelists. What role can business play in closing this gap, if you like, that you described?
I agree with my colleagues from Taiwan that at the moment the business community in Vietnam, they keep silent on this issue. However, I think that in order to well promote and protect LGBT rights, we need the coordination and cooperation, not only from the government, LGBT community, but also the business communities, since if we well protect and promote LGBT rights, in that case, business can get benefit from that.
Very good. Thank you. Can I turn to Japan and Ishikawa-san? You've heard described the situation in Vietnam, in Taiwan, in the Philippines. Tell us about Japan and your legislative efforts.
皆さんおはようございます。石川大我と言います。なぜ僕が一番最後かっていうのが今分かりました。日本が一番遅れているからだというふうに思います。
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Taiga Ishikawa, and I realized why I'm the last one to speak among all the panelists, because like Japan, in terms of the LGBT right, we are the most behind. That is why.
僕はですね、2011年にゲイであることをオープンにして、日本で初めて日本で、男性の同性愛者ということで、当選をしました。日本にはですね、2011年に、僕と同じくですね、区議会議員に当選した方が1人いて、あと2003年に性同一性障害であることをオープンにした議員が1人おりまして、今日本には LGBT であることをオープンにした、議員が今3人おります。
So, I guess I was the first one to be elected as an open gay man and become the council member, the city council member, and that was back in 2011. And there was someone similar, and also he's a gay man, and who was elected as the council member in other district, and that was also 2011 at the same time. And also there's another person who was elected as a council member, and this person has a gender identity disorder, and so 2013. So I guess there are three of us actually in the public office and being open about gay.
日本の状況というのは2003年にですね、性同一性障害に関する特例法というのができまして、これは一定の条件を満たせば生まれた時の性別を変更できるという法律ができました。日本においてはこの LGBT のうちこの T の部分、トランスジェンダーの部分が先に2003年に法律ができたということで進みました。
So in 2003, the first bill to be passed was this like a gender identity disorder bill, and this is basically if you fulfill certain conditions and criteria, you can actually change your sex assignment on the paper, and so therefore this the bill related to the transgender was the first one to be passed and promoted.
日本ではこれを性同一性障害と障害者なんだから何かケアをしなければいけないということで非常に2003年に法律が比較的早く、そういう意味では日本の方が早く通ったのかなというふうに思っています。
So this was back in 2003, relatively early, because they decided that they basically treated this like a gender identity disorder as disorder, meaning they have disadvantage, therefore they needed to be protected. I think that's why this bill was passed.
今までは少し変な人、いわゆるですね、差別用語でいうとこのオカマというような言葉で言われていた人たちが障害者なんだということを認識されることによって、理解が進んだ。しかし世界の中では、障害というよりもトランスジェンダーという形で障害から抜けるような形になっておりますけれども、日本では障害者であるということで理解が進んだというのは、いい部分と悪い部分があるなというふうに思っています。
So I guess of course there was discrimination against the transgenders, and people thought they are really strange, and also we used to call them okama, who looks like the different sex or the opposite sex. But I guess because Japan probably now has a better understanding those people, but we always associate them with sort of people who have disorders or disadvantage. So therefore, I guess it's a good and bad, because now we have a better understanding about the transgender, but at the same time it's treated as a disorder. So I guess there's a pros and cons about this bill.
で同性愛について進んだのはですね、やっぱり去年なんですね。2015年に、渋谷区という豊島区からも近いところですが、その渋谷区で同性同士のパートナーに証明書を出すというようなことがですね決まりまして、一気に今日本の中でこの LGBT に関する、同性愛に関する、同性婚に関することが進んでいるという、そういったような状況です。
And I feel we made a big progress, a big jump in 2015. This place called Shibuya Ward. This is one of the districts in Tokyo, which is not far from my own district. And they decided to issue those same-sex partner certificate, so recognizing same-sex couple as a sort of couples, like significant others. So I guess in that sense, this LGBT issue made big progress in last year.
そういった意味で東京からそれが発信しているんですが、今、地方都市にもそういった同じような同じような条例を作ろうというふうな動きができていきます。そういった意味で日本というのは一番最初に何かをやるというのが非常に難しいんですが、渋谷で一番最初にこの条例ができたことによって、この LGBT の問題について、同性婚の問題について考えていいんだという雰囲気が去年から日本に広がっている、そんなような今状況です。
So I guess this movement or trend started from Tokyo, but now it's spreading all over Japan, including some of the regional cities. And of course, Shibuya Ward is the first one to issue this city ordinance. But now we have this an environment where we can think about this same-sex marriage or the same-sex partnership. So therefore, in Japan, in the Japanese, we don't like to be the first one to do something. But at least this the movement or the action by the Shibuya kind of gave us created an environment in which we feel more comfortable about thinking about these issues.
Can I ask then, if that's a sort of ground-up movement that is developing, do you think it is only a question of time before it becomes more broadly adopted at a national level from the top down as well?
残念ながら今日本は非常に保守的な政治が行われているところなんですけれども、非常に保守的だというような状況の中で地方から広がっているっていうのはとても面白いなというふうに思ってるんです。 ですね。で今やっと、企業も含めてこういった LGBT の問題について考えるようになり、そして国のレベルでもですね差別禁止法を作ろうというような動きが国会議員の中でできています。同性婚の前にですねやっぱり他の国々もそうだと思いますけれども、まず差別の禁止をするんだというような法律を作ろうという動きまではできているというような状況ですね。
So unfortunately, probably not for right away, because Japan's politics or I guess ruling party is quite conservative this moment. But I think what's interesting is these movements and basically happening and taking place in a regional level, municipality level. So I guess what's happening is probably we are going to discriminate against LGBT first before we started thinking about the same-sex marriage. I think we need to actually pass the bill to prohibit discrimination against the certain groups. So I think that's what's going to happen first.
And can I put to you the same question about business? Is business a player in this in Japan?
はい、僕は10年ぐらい前にですねNPO 当事者をサポートする NPO もやっていたんですが、LGBT の音楽祭をやろうというふうになった時にですね航空会社がスポンサーとしてサポートをしてくれたんですが、サポートはするけれども名前は出してほしくないと、印刷物とかですねそういったものに名前を出してほしくないというのが、10年前の状況でした。
So, for example, 10 years ago, I was a representative of this NPO that supports LGBT community, and of course, I hosted this music fair, and one of the Japanese airlines, and they decided to become our sponsor, which I was very grateful. But at the same time, they said, we're going to donate, we're going to sponsor your event, but don't mention our name in the event or in the printing or the brochure. So that's how things were 10 years ago.
スポンサーになるということはこのようにやっぱり宣伝をしてもらうというのがすごく大事だと思うんですが、サポートはするけれども決して名前は言ってくれるなというような状況が10年前だったわけですけれども、実は昨日ですねそのエアラインに乗ってこの香港までやってきたんですが、今はですねそのエアラインもそのマイルをですね、家族の間ではシェアできるんですが、それも同性カップルでもマイルがシェアできるようなそんな取り組みも進んでいるようになっていまして、企業も非常に去年から活発にいろいろな企業が結婚と同性カップルをですね結婚と同等な関係というふうに認めて、お祝い金を出すというようなことを検討するというですねいろんな企業が検討するというそういうニュースが非常に日本では多くなってきました。
So I guess at that time that sponsor that one of the airlines they said we're going to support your event but never mention our name. So that's how things were 10 years ago. But luckily I was able to fly to Hong Kong by that particular airline and yesterday. And right now I think they made a big progress because now because we have this mileage program and you can share the mileage points among the family members. I think you can do that even among the same-sex partnership. So I guess the airline recognize the LGBT's rights more than they used to, and also Japanese companies and corporate has been actively supporting this LGBT movement these days. And for example, if they're employees get married or they get together among the same sex, and some of them actually give out the money as the wedding gift. So I think since last year the Japanese corporate has been very supportive and active in this area.
Thank you. Well, I think that's given us a very helpful view of the situation across the region. Let's open it up to the floor. Who would like to answer a question to any of our panelists? Who would like to ask about any of the countries or any of the developments that you've heard about, or anything else you'd like us to cover? Any questions?
Hi, we've heard from each of you at varying degrees a question of whether government should lead on this issue. We're obviously looking at whether business should lead on this issue. Some of the speakers have said that it's in fact the public, the community, that's leading on the issue. I'd like to ask, and it's open to anyone on the panel, does this need to be a three-way leadership effort in order to succeed, or are there individual sectors that can force the others to follow? And if so, which sector is it that should actually be doing the leading?
Could you just say who you are?
Oh, sorry, Gavin McDougall. I'm with the Australian Consulate.
Yeah. So I think I think the question was, does this have to be a joint effort by various sectors, business, public, legislature, or can there be leadership from a particular sector? Who would like to go first? Maybe. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that in response to your questions from Vietnam's perspective, what we have advanced relating to legislation today in favor of LGBT, we must thank the joint effort of not only from the government, the LGBT community in Vietnam, but also the assistance and support from international organizations, for example, as I mentioned, UNDP and other UN agencies. Since with their support, they give us experience, practice, in order to help us and governmental officials to understand the issue and then help us to draft the new laws in favor of LGBT. Therefore, I think that we need the joint effort.
I think from the individuals in Taiwan, although we are not legalized the LGBT marriage, but our local government, they allow the LGBT couples to list the partners on the household registration records, and this is not give them the civil code right, but it can be used in hospital codes and police station where such status is needed. For example, sign as surgery consent. But till now, there's LGBT person to register. So if more and more LGBT come out, or let your parents to let friends know, yeah, my friends or my children are LGBT. So that is normal. That is not matters. So I think the older people can accept, and today from the business sector's aspect, I think it's very fantasy idea, because it led people to accept it and think, yeah, it's just normal. So we just enlarge the marriage, include more persons, include the LGBT, not to destroy the marriage. So I think it's very useful.
We have a very good question from the app. Is there a disconnect between the views of the constituents in your communities and the position that your governments take on LGBT issues? So this is a question for the politicians among you. Is there a disconnect between the views of the constituents in your communities and the position your governments take on LGBTs? Sol, maybe you could tackle that.
Well, I think there are awareness in different communities about LGBT issues in the Philippines, but I think there should be more awareness. For example, in the media, there are a lot of issues about LGBT hate crimes, LGBT abuse. These are different stories that really influence. I hope it will really influence or help in passing the LGBT anti-discrimination bill in our country. But in my personal point of view, I just would like to add up on the first question earlier. I think the private and public sectors should really work hand in hand and help the state to close the gap on anti-discrimination bill, because having an LGBT supportive policies in a workplace is associated with reduce in the incidence of discrimination, and it will really help the LGBT employees to have job satisfaction and commitment in their work.
Ishikawa-san, can I ask you?
僕はですね2000年から、ちょうど2000年からその LGBT のアクティビストとして活動しているんですが、その当時は企業にですねLGBT の権利について認めてほしいということを言うと、法律がないから政府が動かないからダメなんだって言うんですね。で、政府の方に行きますと、例えば僕は豊島区で、この前も豊島区の区長に対して質問したんですが、ぜひ豊島区で同性パートナーの条例を作ってほしいというようなことを言いますと、こういった問題は民間が先に率先してやるもんなんだって言うんです。
So I have been acting as the LGBT activist since like 2000, and I have gone to like many companies and asking to like if they can promote the right for the LGBT. And what they used to say is like there's no ordinance or there's no law, so therefore there's nothing we can do. The government should take the lead. That's what the private sector used to say. Then I went to talk to the governor of my district, and the other day, so they said this is the government side, and then I asked him, whether he can create some sort of the ordinance, for the LGBT rights, and he said this is something that private sector should be be leading.
日本ではですね、ただ世論が少し変わってきました。去年の調査なんですけれども、同性婚に対して 51% の人が賛成をしているというような結果が出ました。今まで人々がどういうふうにこの同性婚について思っているかというのが調査がなかったんですが、この 51% が賛成をしている、20代ですと 71.6% が賛成をしていているというような、非常に若い人がやっぱり受け入れているということが非常に明らかになってくると進んでくると思います。皆さんがおっしゃっているように、政府、政府側、政治の側、そして、民間の会社の側、そして、人々の世論、そういったものが重なって物事が進んでいくんじゃないかなというふうに思っています。この新聞なんですけれども、日曜日の新聞なんですが、これ LGBT の特集がですね3ページにわたって特集をされると、別冊ですね、これね、新聞の中、これ新聞の中かな、新聞の中にごめんなさい、3ページですけれども、この LGBT について、新聞社が組むというような、そういったような状況になっているので、ぜひアジアの皆さんとも協力しながら日本の状況も進めていきたいと思っています。
So, but I think the public opinion is now shifting and really moving forward. And there has been this like a recent survey that 51% of the Japanese actually supporting this like same-sex marriage. So I guess in the past we didn't have this kind of survey or opinion poll. So therefore we didn't know how the public perceived the same-sex marriage. But turned out like many people are very supportive, especially like in the people in the 20s. 71.6% of them actually support this, the same-sex marriage. So I think the young people is going to be a major driver, and also probably based on that government and public and rest of the society come together. I think we can really promote this kind of like LGBT rights. And also, as you can see, this like a newspaper. This is from the Sunday paper, and actually they had this like a 3-page the LGBT special issue. So therefore, I think the people are more interested in this issue, and then hopefully working together with other Asian countries, and then we can promote this right in Japan.
Thank you. Well, we're out of time. If I could just attempt a very brief, my takeaways from that session, three conclusions. The first, I think not surprisingly, is the situation across Asia is quite varied from what you've all said. A lot of differentiation country by country. But the second sense is that although they're not exactly in the forefront of establishing LGBT rights legislatively, there's a sense everywhere, I think, of incipient change from what you've described, both pressure from lawmakers such as yourselves, in the case of Vietnam, actual laws, but generational change in the attitudes that you talk about. So a big sense of being perhaps at the beginning of something rather dramatic. And finally, and this is, I think, sets our challenge for the rest of today, both here and elsewhere, the silence of business that you described really around the region was quite deafening, I think. So that, I think, is something that we intend to begin to break today, and throws down the gauntlet, I think, for the rest of this discussion. So just remains for me to thank enormously all of you for coming here and sharing your experiences with us today. Thank you very much indeed.